Okay. Here we are with Hayom Yom, 28 of Kislev, Koyach, 28. It was customary for the Tzemach Tzedek to have a sort of farbringen on one of the evenings of Hanukkah with his family, including his daughters-in-law. This was called Latkes evening, the evening of Latkes. This was also the practice of the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe. Among the stories the Rebbe told at this meal were some which were widely talked about every Hanukkah, though they had been discussed the year before. In other words, new insights. My father would give Hanukkah gelt on the evening of the fourth or fifth night, which is what we're up to, of course. Hayom Yom. I'm thinking maybe going forward, we're going to revert to have not me just saying the Yom Yom. Everybody has it, so other people can read it, but let's see. Okay, but to our Tanya here. We are on the 28th, right? That's what we just said. And in lessons in Tanya, that's the bottom of page 79. And in the classical Tanya, it's about 6 lines up from the bottom of Kaf Ches. So quickly, we started, after we got introduced to the godly soul in chapter 2, we learned about the structure of the godly soul. And yesterday, we started to learn about the garments of the godly soul. And we said an important thing to remember here, is why are we doing this? Because I put it in a mushal. I don't know how great the mushal is. We're all sent here to do battle against the forces of darkness and to release from them and ultimately transform them into the forces of light. And to do that, to do that battle, we have to know and how to utilize the equipment, the ammunition, and the weapons that we have. And the reason, therefore, that we're learning about the structure of the soul, the garments of the soul, is to know what equipment we have and how to use them. So yesterday we started the garments of the soul, and today we're going to talk about the subject of today is that the garments of the soul actually have an advantage over the soul itself. And we'll explain why. The Alter Rebbe will explain why. So as I said, page Ches, about 6 lines up from the bottom. V'hine shleisha levushim elo, these three garments, thought, speech, and action. When they're engaged, when one's thought, speech, and action are engaged in the Torah and her mitzvahs, even though they're called garments, l'nefesh, ruach, and neshama, to the 3 levels of the soul, nevertheless, the gadla ma'alosam, la'ein kates v'seif al ma'alos nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Their virtue, their quality, has an advantage over where he says, la'ein kates, without end, an infinite advantage, a great, great advantage over the souls, the levels of the soul itself, as we'll explain. First of all, it's written in the Zohar, that God and his Torah are one. So therefore, this opens up, okay, God and his Torah are one. That means if we can find our place in the Torah, if we can in any way grasp what God has put in his Torah, which he has given us the capability to do that through investing his written Torah in the oral Torah, through our human faculties, the faculties of Chachamim, who labored over bringing down the understanding of God, of what God has invested in his written Torah, in the oral Torah. And it says in the Zohar that he and himself and the Torah are one. So Hashem is invested in the Torah, and we are entrusted with the ability and the responsibility to bring that out by understanding the way he's invested in the Torah and how he's invested in the Torah through his mitzvahs, through the way he has mitzvah, as we say, is mitzvah, or tzavto v'chibri. Tzavto means, mitzvah means he commanded, but the root is tzavto. He connected us with him savta, through his mitzvahs. And the mitzvahs are explained, and he himself has invested his very will, which is his mitzvahs, in the Torah. And this is from the Zohar. That Torah and the Holy One, blessed be He, are one. Pirish, which means that Torah is God's wisdom, and it's the will of Hashem in its full-blown glory and its full-blown strength. Excuse me. And it's he and his glory and himself are kulachad. They're one. Kihu hayedeya, as the Rambam says, he is the knower. Vehu hamada, and he is the knowledge. Vehu hayedua, and he is the thing known, all at once. In our experience, these are three separate things. There's the knowledge which is out there. There's the one who knows it, and then there's the thing known, the object which you know something about. But this is all one with him. And that all oneness is invested in the Torah. Hashem and his Torah are one, and he is the knower, the knowledge, and the known. And this was mentioned above by the Alter Rebbe earlier. Again, just to interrupt, put up your hand, please, if you have a comment or a question as we go. It's easier for me, and I think for everybody, when it's fresh in your mind, bring it up and we'll address it and we'll continue if you have a question or a comment. Even though the Holy One, blessed be He, is called infinite, and to his greatness, his largesse, his entirety, ein cheker, there's no searching after it. One cannot grasp that. As the Zohar says, no thought can grasp him at all. And likewise, his will, is also not grasped. We can't fathom it. As we're going to say, we can experience it. We can get a hold of it as it's expressed. And where is it expressed? His will and his wisdom in the Torah. But we can't fathom it. We can't understand it. We can't probe his depths because he and we are on, to say the least, two different levels. So we can't grasp it all. As also neither him, neither his thought, nor his will, nor his wisdom can we really grasp. Tefisa, we can't get a hold of it. Because the Kislev is written, it's written in Yeshayahu, in Isaiah. It says, there's no searching after his understanding. We can't chase his mind because his mind is not, as the Zohar also says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My will is not your will. Yet he's compressed that so we can get a hold of it, even though we can't understand it. We can get a hold of it and we can work with it because he's compressed it into his Torah and his mitzvahs. It's also written, if you search after Hashem, this is a pasuk in Iyov. If you search after Hashem, will you be able to find him? It's a rhetorical question, meaning no. Ukasiv, it's also written, and this is the Zohar I quoted before, that my thoughts are not your thoughts. No, excuse me, it's not Zohar. This is also Yeshayahu in Isaiah. So on this it's said, in the Gemara in Megillah, it says like this: we can't grasp him, right? We can't fathom him. Nevertheless, in the place where you want to find his glory, his greatness, where do you find his greatness? Where he is shom atam moitze an vasnuse, where he has lowered himself. Literally, it says like that. I'm adding words here. Let's put the just straight translation. In the place where you will find his greatness of the Holy One, blessed be He, that's the place where you will find his humility, where he's lowered himself. Where has he lowered himself? In the Torah and mitzvahs. It's Samsum HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ratzoni V'Achmosai, God has contracted, the Holy One, blessed be He, has contracted His wisdom, His will and His wisdom in the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, v'hilchasehim, and their laws, uvetzirufi oisias, and also in the combinations of the letters of Tanakh, the Durashasehim, and their interpretations, Sheber Gadas and Midrashet Hazchak Menuzal, and in the Midrashes of our blessed, of the Chachamim. Big day, so he's lowered himself. Again, this is the key. The key is back at the beginning. That is our, that Torah and God are one. So he's lowered himself there. Bichdei, in order, so that each soul with its three levels, as they are implanted in the body of a person, the godly soul implanted back at the beginning of Tanya, godly soul implanted in the animating soul, in order that a human, who's this combination of animal soul and godly soul, is tuchel hasigon, can get a hold of them, to grasp them, bedaitu ulakaimon, excuse me, to grasp them in one's knowledge and to fulfill them. The them is the mitzvahs, right? Which are savto v'chibur, which connects us with Hashem. We can never grasp Hashem as He is on His own. We can hug Him. That's the idea of mitzvah, savto v'chibur. Get connected. We can hug Him and take His expressions with us and work with them and walk with them, though understanding Him is impossible, because the Gedulasa and Cheka, to His greatness, there's no searching. Nevertheless, we can grasp the investment of His will and His wisdom in the Torah and its mitzvahs, and we can fulfill them. To whatever extent we can fulfill them through our deed, our speech, and our thought. So in this way, and this is the advantage of the garments of the soul over the soul itself, the garments of the soul invest the soul with the will and wisdom of Hashem through our grasping, through our getting a hold of that, hugging it, getting a hold of it, wrapping ourselves around it through our thought, speech, and deed. And therefore, the Torah is compared to water. Just like water falls from a high place to a low place. Similarly, the Torah, in which again, remember, they're one thing. So the Torah is descending, bringing him down, level after level after level, down to a low place. So Torah, so the Torah comes from the place of glory, literally, which is His will and wisdom, may be blessed. And as we said before, Torah and He and His Torah are one. And at the same time, but no brain of ours can possibly can grasp what it is, but it is. The Torah is a container for Him Himself, and we get our arms around that container or utilize that container through our machshava, diva, and ma'aseh. And the Torah comes down, but misham nisoy, journeys. The Torah, which is one with Him, journeys, ve'yoder b'seisa hamidregas, and comes down through hidden levels. Right, so God is always hidden, at least. No, not at least. God Himself, Kadosh Baruch Hu, the one we call the Holy One. Holy, Rashi touches in Chumash, holy means separate. He's always separate from us, yet at the same time, He's one with us. Separate meaning we cannot fathom Him. With us meaning we're actually grabbing a hold of His will and His wisdom when we grab a hold of the Torah, which we learn, and the mitzvahs, which we do. But He Himself is always hidden. He, Hashem, is Echad, comes down to hidden levels, one level after another. The histalshlus orlamis, as in the chain of descent of worlds, until he, his will, and his wisdom are enclosed in physical things, and in the affairs of this world. Which is, this is the topic and this is the object of most of the mitzvahs in the Torah, to deal with physical things, deal with them, again, to hark back to the notion of the battle that we have, deal with them in the sense of bringing consciousness and awareness and luminosity of godliness in the world through physical things, because most of the mitzvahs have to do with physical things, and or a few which are called chayvis alabaves, which are mitzvahs of the heart and mitzvahs of the mind, like learning Torah. But they all have to do, he's put himself down here, the olam hazeh hagashmi. That's where he's invested his very self. The Holy One, blessed be He, has invested himself down here below for us to to grab him, hug him, and operate according to his will. That's invested in the mitzvahs of the Torah and all the tzirufi oisias agashmias and all the letters of the Torah, which are written b'dayov in ink al hasefer on the book, in a sefer Torah. The Esrim Avodas Forim, he's also invested himself in the 24 books of the Tanakh, Shabbat Torah, Nevi'im, the Kesuvim, the Torah, the written Torah, the Torah Shabbat, the prophets, and the writings. In order that every thought, every person's thought, every human who's able to think and has a brain and ability to speak and do can get a hold of him. And I call it like hugging him, though we don't understand him. But we can hug him. We can mitzvah, we can join tzavta v'chibur. I keep repeating that because I'm repeating it partially to myself, that every time we do a mitzvah, it's a lashon tzavta v'chibur. We connect and join ourselves with him, even though ein mashov defisabeh, we can't understand him. And even not only with our thought, but with our speech and our deed, which those two garments of the soul are lower than thought. Even though that the thought and speech are lower, the mitzvahs are enclosed in them. Mitzvah meaning tzavta v'chibur, mitzvah meaning what Hashem wants, which is his ratzon, so his chokmah, and his transcendent level, which we call keser, it's his ratzon, is mislabish there, and that's what he ends, mislabish bahem. Those aspects of himself, Kuchibrichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and His Torah are one. And through our Machshava Dibra Ma'aser, which are the garments of the soul, so the soul is able to operate and to elevate itself through the performance of mitzvahs. Because as we come, it's a Yerida Tzorach Aliyah, right? We've heard that expression. It's a descent for the sake of an elevation. The godly soul, as it is at the outset, which with its levels of nefesh, ruach, and neshama invested in our body, are actually elevated through our achiza, our grasping onto and hugging the Torah and the mitzvahs, which then elevate the neshama as well as elevate all of the physicality and the intellectuality and the sensitivities that we have down here in Olam Hazeh. So that is the explanation, this little piece, the advantage of the garments of the soul over the soul itself. These garments are an enabler of the soul and an elevator of the soul. That's the Tanya for today. Not one hand up. Cool, everything's just smooth. Maybe, I hope it is. Any comments? Natalie. What's a Natalie?
Yeah, Natalie Manuka. I don't know. This is a little tangential maybe, but when you mentioned in the beginning, or when the Tanya mentions in the beginning, you know, of, you know, Hashem, the greatness is one aspect of his greatness is in his humility and his ability to condense down and be, you know, come onto a human level to us.
Yeah.
I was just thinking how in the one of the 10, you know, Kibbut Avayim, we usually think of it in terms of our being the children and how we respect and listen to our parents as being a training point for Hashem. I was just thinking about it the other way, how as parents, we also sort of condense ourselves and relate to our kids, and that puts us on a whole new level that we never were before. I remember when I had my first kid saying, oh my gosh, you know, the love was so unbelievable. I remember thinking, wait a minute, this is a secret that everybody knows and nobody, and they don't talk about it, you know.
How good. Let me interrupt you. I think you made a very good point. That, I mean, we imitate him by condensing, I love your word, condensing ourselves, lowering ourselves. And in doing so, every time we do it, every time we've been down and kissed one of the children or give somebody a hug, we should maybe have in mind that this is exactly what Hashem is doing. This is the kid, the little baby initially, and it's talked about this in this has no hasoga, no understanding in the parent, but there is this innate love that comes down from the fact that the parent is just coming down in secret levels, not known to the kid. The kid has no consciousness yet, but the love is there and the joining is there. Beautiful.
And initially, there's only the hug.
Rivka, I think you're good. Rivka, you're up.
Here we go. Okay, got it. I think what's interesting here is that this is counterintuitive to people who like to learn a lot. And we are doing that. That's what we're doing. We're learning and we're using our intellect, we're using our brains, and we're doing. But basically what we're saying is, as much as we learn, we'll never know. We'll know we don't know. And if you really want to get close, if you really want to do, you know, you really want to do Ratzon Hashem, just do it. Just go out there and do your thing, and have a little humility. Like, it's not about you. That's the humility. It's like you just doing stuff, just ordinary, you know, preparing for Shabbos, having guests, giving tzedakah, whatever, you know, smiling at somebody, a nice word.
I think in a certain way, I think what this chapter has explained for us is what the Rebbe always says, and the Chachamim say, Ma'aseh hu ha'ikar. The Ma'aseh is the root. If you want to get to the root, it's in the deed. It's not in the intellectualization, although there are certain mitzvahs that have to do with thought, right? Study. Let's not throw out the window, limit a Torah and understanding of a Torah, but only to the extent that they're mitzvahs. They're commandments of a soul in a body, and it's the activity of the soul in the body which is the deepest way of clinging to Hashem.
And it goes back to the whole purpose of the creation of the world. Like, what did Hashem need this for? Right? And that's right. The beginning, the end is wedged in the beginning. This is the end product, the lowest of the low. It was the intent for the highest of the high, and that's the only way we can really connect. The other way is kind of just, it's self-aggrandizement in a lot of ways. We have fun, we enjoy it. It's not accomplishing really the purpose.
Right. Beautiful. Menucha again.
Doesn't have to be.
No, well, your hand is up.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that, yes, the deed is the main thing, but Rivka, will you agree? I know you and I are the only two that I know of that are here in Israel and get this interesting timing of this class, 2:30 in the afternoon. And I find that it's unusual. Usually, at least for women, you learn in the morning or maybe you have a shiur at night, but who does something in the middle of the day? Like, it's unusual. It's a little bit like maybe mincha for a man. And I find just this class, you know, and just learning all of a sudden in the middle of the day, it's like a huge cappuccino, you know, and it's really energizing.
Beautiful. Thank you. And there are one or two others in Israel there. Anybody else? Comments? Questions? Okay, Ubechein, so what? We got a couple minutes. So what? What's the takeaway?
Great. It was like a Hanukkah present.
But tell me why.
It was so good. It was so wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
All right, so God willing, you'll take the Hanukkah present and open it up and live with it. We all will. Rivka, again, go.
Yeah. What's the takeaway? Like, don't feel bad if you can't sit down and learn all day. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing by doing the stuff, doing whatever you're doing. You're doing Hashem Ratzon, and Hashem is putting you right where you need to be to do what He wants you to do. So do it.
Great. Amen. Thank you, guys. Tomorrow, in Hashem, we'll see you again, or we'll see each other again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Great looking Hanukkah.